Good Wednesday morning. I got one
Good morning,
report.
Steve.
Thank you, Linda. I got one report here. There was no audio this morning. Was there no audio?
Oh, I hear you.
No, but before, were you hearing the music?
Oh, yeah, we're in
Oh,
Havana. Heck
all right.
yeah.
All right. All right. I was going to say everything looked good on my end. I feel like I finally had a morning here with no hiccups. So, well, welcome to Wednesday. I hope you guys are all doing well. I see we've got the big boss, Mr. David Sherwood, with us this morning from Sherwood Home Inspections. Welcome, Dave. How are you?
Morning. Good, good. How are you?
I know last time or last week you guys were on a little bit of a time crunch. Any thing that you've got to get out of here for today, or are you with us for the full
Uh,
show?
just 9 o'clock. I've got my training to
Okay.
do with my inspectors, but I got time from now till then.
Perfect. Perfect. Was there anything in particular that you were going to bring to the call this morning, Dave, that you wanted to kind of jump into?
So a couple of things. I've been doing a lot of work with FHA around this whole well testing and working with mortgage officers. So the where we have a real hard spot, first of all, is inspectors having to spend 4 hours out there doing a well test is ridiculous. And where we're putting the water is a whole nother issue. But FHA didn't much care about either one of those. So what we have been finding is that about, as far as we can tell, about 20% of the time a mortgage company calls us prior to closing and says, we need the 4 hour test. So, like, we've had maybe 10 in the last 2 months call and say, we can't close without it. Now, I talked to another mortgage person, and he can't find it in his up chain where FHA is hard and fast on it. So, what we did is, after me talking to a couple of people at FHA, is I told them yesterday that we're pulling back and we're going to do the 1 hour. And if you guys aren't going to enforce it, then at such time somebody needs it, we'll have to go back out. Where the hard spot is that the clients then will say, well, we already paid for the well test. Yeah, but not 4 hours. You paid for 1 hour. So if realtors could help us bridge that gap when we're doing a well test, we're going to do the 1 hour. We're going to do what they need us to do to evaluate the components. And if prior to the closing, the mortgage company comes back with some hard and fast that you have to have the 4 hour, let us know as soon as possible. And we'll go ahead and send them the difference in the bill, and we'll go out and get it done. I had to do one the other night at 7 o'clock at night just so that they had the paperwork for 10 the next morning. So it all depends on the mortgage company and what their criteria is. I can't seem to get a handle on who, what, and where. Uh, so
Well,
that's the
I know
status.
yeah, that's a good update because I know we've had some struggles around this, and our preferred doesn't seem to care.
Yeah,
So I don't know if it's like each mortgage company's underwriters interpreting the law differently or the rule, the regulation. So good update there. What else you got
yeah.
for us?
Yep. Let's see. So the other thing is preparing homeowners for the inspection. It seems like we're running more and more into homeowners coming back after an hour of the inspection starting and saying, hey, everybody's got to get out. You've been here an hour. That's long enough to do the inspection. Well, no, it takes a little longer than that. And then there's some rift between buyer and seller. So if we could just prep everybody that it shouldn't take us 3 hours unless we got a lot going on, or unless, of course, the buyers have lots of questions. Sometimes we need to hold their hand a little bit more than others. And in doing that, we want to make sure that we're answering all of their questions and we're keeping things at a calm level, and they're not taking things out of control. So if we could just remind on the listing side, remind the homeowners that it could take up to 3 hours to do an inspection.
Any just general questions for Dave, guys? Have anything weird come up on inspections, or any questions that just lingering in your head?
Or anything that, how can we help in the process? What can we do that will assist you better during the inspection process?
Go ahead, Martin.
So, quick question about the wells. We had to do a well test, and when testing the water, is it always before all the filtration systems? Because they came back, it was, I think it was high in iron or something like that, but they had a bunch of filtration systems where once it came out of the tap, it was low. So we had to redo it after the fact. Um, so as far as should we be testing the water after or before all the filtration systems?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's been one of concern for a while. A lot of buyers want to know, well, what's in the well? And their mortgage company might want to know what's in the well versus is the treatment system working? Our position has always been you're buying the house with the treatment system. Let's see whether the treatment system is working or not. If a mortgage company says, no, we want it prior to, we don't really get too many of those. Or a buyer says, we want to know prior and after. Well, you do that, that gets really costly. So we try not to steer them to before or after, unless it's a lead test and they're trying to find out exactly what's in the water. But 99 out of 100 times, you're not going to get lead from the well. You're getting it from a faucet, piping, something in the home, which is easily treatable. So to answer your question, I would say that we try to take it after the system because that's what they're buying.
Any other general questions? Doesn't have to be about well. Dave, how long you been doing home inspections?
I just started 43 years ago.
40. So we've
Yeah.
we've got the expert here with us. What else is coming up? You guys see something weird or had a question? I will and I want to try and do more of this moving forward. Let's see if this works. I wanted to just throw this up on the screen. We were talking about the sprinkler systems. And a lot of times I think you guys don't know, we kind of described what we were talking about, but I did want to pull up a picture. This is what those control boxes look like. And I think it was Adam that was kind of talking about that you can kind of go in here and control your zones and stuff like that. So I did talk to a local sprinkler expert who is going to come on and talk to us, but figured I just, these are those green boxes that you're seeing in the yard. Dave, I don't know if you have any comments or anything regarding sprinkler systems that you guys are seeing. I don't know that you really touch them, right?
We typically don't. For relocation companies, we do. And so a couple of things about the green boxes. Oftentimes those lids get broken, particularly if you have a lawn company. I don't want to say anything bad about them, but they're in a hurry more than I would like them to be. And they typically run over those things or a sprinkler head and snap them off. And so it is a good idea to have the sprinkler company kind of go through it periodically and maybe before purchase and go through with the client how to operate it and how things are functioning at that time so that they know. The other thing about those boxes is they can get flooded depending on where they are. And so just lifting that lid and looking down inside can certainly be helpful and see if it's flooded because there's electrical valves in there and solenoids. And so if they get flooded, they're not going to work very well. So you're going to get a particular zone that's not going to get operation, and people won't know it till all of a sudden they see a color difference in their lawn. So it'll be important to take a peek at that.
Any questions around those, guys? All right, the other thing I wanted to share with you is this hit the press, I think, yesterday. So Zillow to start blocking some listings in June. So as we've talked about all of the stuff, primarily behind Compass and what they are trying to do with their private listings, Zillow basically came out and said, well, if you're going to go private in your internal network and then try and come to market without the proper paperwork, we're not going to allow those listings to come on. And it looks like June 30th is when this is going to start. So although, the CCP and these new laws do allow for this, Zillow has basically come out and said, hey, we believe it's in the client's best interests, both the consumer on the buy side and the consumer on the sell side, to get maximum exposure. And we're not going to allow you to do it. So if that listing were to get canceled or expire with that first company and get relisted, it would be available to be shown on Zillow. There's also an interesting post that came out kind of around this same topic, got posted to LinkedIn, and I don't have the actual the post on LinkedIn, but basically a consumer, an educated consumer, a multi-transactional consumer, so this is not their first rodeo, did a transaction with a Compass agent where Compass had suggested this private listing network, and that they thought, they could get X number off the market. The consumer seemed to be okay with that. They did a couple of private showings. They got their number. But the consumer started to think, geez, if I showed it to I think it was, in this case, it was two people, and I got my number, what would I get if I opened this up to the entire market? So they ended up going to market, and the final number was an extra 100K. So it's almost 100,000 potential loss, and just kind of drives and reinforces these private networks. Like, it just doesn't seem to make sense for the majority of home sellers. So I'm just trying to stress here, you've really got to be careful. You've really got to be educating the consumer about market exposure. And there's really got to be, in my opinion, a very unique use case for the person that doesn't want to go full market exposure. So just wanted to share that. I don't know if anybody had seen this or was aware that all starts on June 30th, but you basically, Zillow saying you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're going to try and do the private network, don't come back to us and say now you want it public as well. So in my mind, obviously a big loss if you can't get it onto, and I don't think it's just Zillow. I think a realtor is taking a similar stance. Interestingly, I did read, and I don't know if it was in this article. Yeah. So homes.com, who is kind of the antithesis of Zillow, and these two are kind of at each other's throats, says that they will actually boost those listings that Zillow won't display. So, which sounds good in theory, but again, I think we would all agree. I don't know these consumers that are going to homes.com. I don't know where they are. So, thoughts on this? What are we thinking? You've got to unmute or raise your hand in order to indicate that you would like to participate in this conversation. Has anybody had a seller ask you about this? Is it coming up at all at the listing presentation? Anybody asking about, hey, do you have a private network? Do you? Margareta.
Good morning. Now that I figure out what's wrong with my audio, I was on a Bluetooth. Anyway, sorry. Good morning, all. Yeah, I had a few sellers, but they're very specific. They have antiques, it's about value in what's in their property sometimes that they don't want to be put out on the market. More private people. That unfortunately tends to be more people who have more of a monetary affluence, let's call it. So I wonder if those kind of networks will become almost kind of like in New York City. I know they have so many MLSs, and it's so hard to get to pay in as a realtor into them. So what ends up happening, they end up having almost like an exclusive in that neighborhood. And obviously people who want to get in that certain neighborhood, they'll seek that out because that's the only thing that's available in that neighborhood. So I wonder if, it's almost like, I mean, we've gone away in the 90s from redlining, or even from the 40s and 60s, like we used to have redlining and yellow lining and green lining maps. I wonder if this is almost like going to turn into that sort of conceptually, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I just don't see it going there. I mean, those networks are so small, and to me, there are so many ways that you can help that seller that might be concerned about the stuff that's in their house, right? Or the person says, "Hey, I got 4 kids, and I got animals, and like I just can't do all these private showings." It's like, okay, no problem. Let's market to the masses, but we're going to just do one mega open house on Saturday from 10 to 2, right? So we're going to market this thing. We're going to take all the photos. We're going to do all of our stuff, but there's only going to be one time that people can come and see it, right? And we will make sure, we will staff it up. We will make sure that all your valuables are locked or they're put away into storage or whatever the case might be. But we can mitigate most of the concerns, in my mind, that a seller might have about valuables being stolen or them being disrupted, and still market to the masses. So I just, again, and outside of the person that just says, I don't want people to know that my house is for sale and I'm willing to leave $100,000 on the table, I just don't see how these benefit the consumer.
I agree. I don't think it benefits the consumer in any way either. But um, I, I think this might just blow over. I think we too much evolve as a society, and I think people are just much more educated. I hope.
Yeah. There is the convenience factor. That's the other thing that plays in. Some people just say, look, if you can get me this number, I just need to be out of here, right? I'm about to get foreclosed on. I don't have time to come to market and then hope that this thing closes in 30 or 60 days, right? As we all know, the chances of it just going nice and smooth and closing on time are very limited. So, there's the convenience thing. There's another scenario where I think, hey, I'm willing to leave money on the table because I want timing and I want convenience. So, there are some scenarios. They're just, in my mind, few and far between.
And I think one of the things that we should counter with is like, hey, people usually, if they're willing to leave 100K on the table, they have money. So the best way to show a property when it's vacant and staged at that point. So please move, so you don't have to deal with this. You don't have to worry about your antiques.
Yeah, that's another way to handle it. What else do you guys have? Who's got something unique going on one of their deals that would be a good share? You heard somebody else's deal, you solved the problem. What do we got? Martin.
So we're doing an inspection at a home Monday, and we knew about these dogs. We asked them to not leave the dogs in the house. And the dogs are basically the gatekeepers of Zool from Ghostbusters. Just really loud. They're in their crates. The crates are moving around. And me and my infinite wisdom decided, all right, let's give these dogs a treat. Hopefully, maybe calm them down. And of course, the seller's watching everything on camera. I get a text, why are you feeding dogs? I'm like, well, have you ever been in this house? It's like, it's really distracting. Like they're just, you can't talk to somebody and hear them. So push come, we're outside. Next thing I know, there's white Subaru comes flying around the corner. Get the F off my property, blah, 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 blah. This thing is over. So we leave. There was some escalation because my buyer had her backpack. He won't let her in the house with a backpack. Talked to the agent. We finally got to get her backpack out of there. So I guess I learned. Granted, I should have asked, but if he knew how his dogs were, I just feel like, how do you do an inspection? And I warned my inspector, say, hey, listen, there's going to be dogs there. And he was okay. He understood. We ended up having to go back to like yesterday at 7:30 at night to finish up the inspection while the owner was there. But any thoughts on like you got two bigger dogs, and they're literally surfing the crates across the floor when they're barking and they're jumping around.
So this
So
was on your initial showing, Martin?
the initial showing, like we just kind of like left them alone, but during inspection, you're in there much longer,
Yeah.
not just going in and out. And I think one of the reasons it's been on the market so long is people. I know some people would be afraid to walk into that house.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a client one time who bred dogs for safety, and they were dogs that were like this, and so we had to get the dogs out of the property for showings because you wouldn't be able to look at the property with these dogs in there. That's how aggressive they were. People would have been fearing for their lives, even though the dogs were caged. So if you are representing a seller that is in a situation like this, please know, even if you're a dog person, I think a lot of the general public is nervous about dogs, even when caged. So if you are representing a seller, I think this is just a good topic to have a conversation with your seller to say, hey, look, in my experience, we're going to need to do something with these dogs for the open house, for the inspections, for the showings, or else we're going to lose buyers. Lauren, I saw your hand up.
I was just going to ask Martin if this was the property on a street that began with an E.
That is correct.
Street dog.
Why did you show that one, Lauren?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of agents, I believe, did because of the price point and where it is.
Yeah. Any other thoughts around pets or other things regarding pets that you guys want to just bring up? Hey, we had this scenario, that scenario. Whether you're representing the buyer or seller. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was going to say, over their 43-year history, I've had a lot of experience with animals. And growing up, I had a relative who used to train animals that were taken in at a shelter. So I know a lot about animals. And what I will tell you is you could have the friendliest dog with the homeowner, a cat too, for that matter. And when a stranger comes in, particularly a stranger, if they have a holster with a flashlight or something different, it really can shake up a dog. And as nice as they can be to the homeowner, they can turn on a dime. And it's really important. If you want to, you could have sellers go to our website, and there's a prepared list of about 10 items that they could do. And one of them is send your dog to the pet spa for the day and have them enjoy some time and playing outside with somebody, dog sitter or whatnot, because it can be so different. I had a cat attack me once, jumped right off a chair and clung into the side of me. And thank God I knew how to handle it, but a lot of inspectors wouldn't, and they take their flashlight out and wrap them, and that's just not helpful for anybody. But the homeowners, it's important for them to understand, although it's their house, they're loaning it to people to go through the house because they're putting it on the open market. And it certainly is helpful if people prepare their animals by taking them off site. And I know that can be really difficult at times, but it's certainly helpful for the inspectors and the buyers, and of course you, the realtors, as well.
Anybody else on pets or showings or anything around this topic? Linda.
Well, I just think it's critical for the listing agent at the time of taking the listing to discuss with the sellers a very serious plan for, okay, what are we going to do when it comes to showings? And what are we going to do when it comes to an inspection where they're going to need to be in the home for several hours? You know, again, to your point, you want to sell your home, and the home has to be welcoming and comfortable for the potential buyers so that they're not scared off. And so, yes, it is your home right now, but you're trying to sell it. And so you have to have a plan in advance for these animals. And and then work it out ahead of time instead of, you know, just letting them be in there and saying, you know, to the buyers and to their service providers, you guys figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's, you know, it's not just the pets, it's just the entire situation, right? It's pets, it's kids, it's the cleanliness, it's, I don't even know.
Decor,
Yeah.
even decor, you know, yes, you have to, you know, it is your home, but you have to depersonalize it so that the potential buyers can envision themselves making it their home. So you have to shift your perspective and say to yourself, it is no longer my home. Right? I'm just living here right now, but it's not mine. And it's a whole mindset that they have to change when marketing their home to try to make it as attractive to as many people as possible. And it takes in all of those elements.
And this is why I've just always been such a fan of, you know, the no showings until the open house. You know, to ask a seller to continuously get the property prepared, especially when you've got a lot going on in your home, is just it can be very tedious. And to get it that perfect show ready with kids, and the sink is clean and the bathrooms are clean, it's just, you know, tireless to do it over and over and over for a showing. So let's get it ready once. Let's put our best foot forward. Let's have food. Let's have music. Let's have energy. And let's get ourselves an offer with some terms that we like. All right, we are up against the 9 o'clock hour. Dave, thank you as always for joining us. You and your team have been phenomenal on this show. Every Wednesday, we can rely on you, so I appreciate that. Go have yourselves an awesome Wednesday, guys, and yeah, we will do it again tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
day,
you all.
everybody.
Bye.